Uh, I'd like to start today by asking you a question. And the question is, as we honor the legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King on this day, what kind of ideology did his work mean? What did it stand for? As you've heard the talks today, you've been given a great deal of information. You've been challenged to think differently. Well, of course, that's our role as speakers, is to force you to think differently. But as you think of the work of Dr. King, most commonly, his efforts were associated with race. Am I correct? A lesser-known fact is, however, his work wasn't just about people of different color. His work was about equality for all persons. Now, unless you're incredibly non-observant, you might notice something about me that is different than you, and it's not my purple glasses. I can't see you, but judging by your laughter, I'm going to assume you've noticed I walk differently. Or perhaps I walk correctly and you walk wrong. Now, I want you to do me a favor. We're going to do an exercise. Not a little exercise because you just ate popcorn. Close your eyes. Now, don't cheat. I can't see if you're cheating or not, and I don't need the lights up. But do not cheat. I'd like for you to take just a moment. And with your eyes closed, think about what would life be like if you could not see? How would you get from the bed to the restroom in the morning? Where would you keep your slippers? How would you drive a car? How would you go to work? How could you work? We've learned a lot about technology today, most of which involves handheld devices and computers. How would you operate this? What would you do? Now, you can open your eyes. Would you all agree with me that your life would be vastly different than what it is now? Do you think you'd be successful? Eventually, not initially. According to whose standards? Now, cover your ears. I, again, can't see if you do this, so just do it. What if you couldn't hear? I can't whisper, I have a microphone. You can probably hear me through that. But what if you couldn't hear? How different would your life be? Okay, please take your hands down. We're going to talk today about a topic that is very important to me. It's most of the work that I spend time doing at the Center for Behavior Analysis. And it specifically is devoted to the idea that people with disabilities, in particular children, have been marginalized. I can tell you, in case you want to know, there are places where children are kept in cages. And I don't mean a room. I mean a dog cage. I can tell you that there are countries that just in June of last year built their very first building that was handicap accessible. Have you ever thought about, and given how wonderful this theater is, what would it be like if you were a person in a wheelchair? How would you get in this building? How would you get in this room? What would you do? By the way, I need you to engage me a little bit. You would use a ramp, but no one else uses a ramp. If you want to get in, you'd have to use a ramp. You'd have to use an elevator, and you'd have to come through one of these doors. You couldn't come down those steps, could you, unless someone carried you? I've actually been to a university building where if a disabled student who was in a wheelchair wanted to go to class, his or her peers literally had to carry the wheelchair up 3 flights of steps, and somebody strong enough had to put that person on their shoulders and carry them up steps. Can you imagine what that would do to the quality of your life? Can you imagine what that would do to the quality of your friends' lives? Have you thought about that? You see, we don't think about that here in America. But here's the point I'm going to make to you throughout today. Your behavior affects the behavior of the people around you. The behavior of the people around you affects your behavior, or at least it should. Do you think about what you do on a moment-by-moment basis? Now, I practice something called behavior analysis. I'm a certified behavior analyst. And so yes, I do spend quite a bit of time analyzing behavior with the goal of trying to change things to make people's lives better. Before we can talk about disabilities truly, let's agree on what a definition is. These are conditions that damage or limit a person's physical or mental ability, period. Physical or mental. Now, my colleagues in psychology and in medicine have developed thousands of labels for things. But I'm going to lump it into those two things. People could either be physically disabled or mentally disabled. Now, I want you to look at this next couple of slides, and I want you to tell me what you think you see. There's one. What do you see? You see children. I see two boys, both smiling, both happy, both beautiful. Very different genetically, obviously. Very different ethnically. Their age is different. But they're two young men. What about this one? I see two more young men. Both very different. Both very happy. One in particular. Eager to enjoy life, eager to embrace their family, eager to be accepted by their communities. Would you all agree? I want to tell you that I have the very fortunate opportunity to work with people who've been given lots and lots and lots of different labels in terms of their disabilities. Or I should say, in terms of their unique capabilities. But what I'm going to do for the rest of my time with you is to emphasize one particular diagnosis, and that's autism. This is a neurobiological developmental disorder. It's characterized by certain features, difficulties in communication, social interaction, and there is a tendency to engage in repetitious behavior. Can you all think of times when you may have engaged in repetitious behavior? You don't have to answer that, because you have. The fact is, this would be excessive. 1 out of every 68 children in the United States is diagnosed with autism. 1 out of every 68. You understand that that means that at least 3 people in this room are impacted by autism. There is somebody with autism in their family. It is the fastest growing developmental disability in the United States. Data internationally is a little bit harder to come by because, quite frankly, other countries don't keep data the way that we do. But if you were to extrapolate this globally, now I hope you're ready for this. 1 out of every 1,673 kids has autism. Boys are 5 times more likely to have autism than girls, hence the reason for showing you pictures of boys. There is no known reason as to why that happens, but that is the statistic. There are, at present, no medically available detection mechanisms for autism. Many parents report that their children develop normally until about 18 months, and then skills such as language that they had acquired, they lose. And, unfortunately, there is no cure. We don't even yet understand why it occurs. There is much to be done. Now, why would a person who looked so beautiful as those young men be marginalized, and I will say also discriminated against? Why is it that someone like me, who had 11 surgeries before I turned 12, be discriminated against, and how did people discriminate against me? Let's say this. What does that mean? That means, why would someone intentionally do something to put a person with a disability like autism in the position to not access resources, education, information in the same way that someone else might? That's what I'm talking about. And do you believe that that happens? It absolutely happens. It happens to everyone, really, who has been given a disability label. Now, the question then becomes, why? And I'll tell you, from my perspective, why is because people generally don't understand certain conditions, and when you don't understand something, what do? Not this audience. This audience seeks information. The people who watch TEDx talks around the globe seek information. But does everyone do that? Does everyone find something that they're afraid of and avoid it? In some countries, a young mother with a baby who's 18 months or 2 years of age with autism would be told, let us take this child. This will be shameful for you to bring that child to your family. If I lived in certain parts of the world, you would not know me. I'm not kidding. I could be up a river or downriver. I need to ask the river keeper. Where does this occur? Where does this discrimination occur? Where does it occur? Does it occur blatantly on the steps of the Capitol like you see on TV when you look at the work that Dr. King did? Do people like me get sent to the back of the bus? No, not anymore. Not thanks to the work that he did. But where does it occur? It occurs right next to you. It occurs right in this building. It's occurred to me today already. Do you know where I sat to have lunch? On the grass. That's difficult for me. I don't get up and down like you do. Did you think about that? Now, the challenge that a family faces when they're impacted by autism is the fact that you can't see it. It doesn't manifest itself physically. I have a physical disability. That's a neurological disability. People are very afraid of what they don't know. And therefore, discrimination happens in the family, at the school, in the community, at the grocery store, everywhere. Now, what can we do about it? Here are some specific tips I'll give you. First of all, you need to remember something. People, all of us, are unique, and we are people first. We are not a label. We get lots of labels. I've been given lots and lots of labels, believe me. But we are unique, and we are individual. Every person with autism is a different person. People with disabilities are people first. They deserve dignity and respect, just in the same way you would expect to receive. And the way to do this is to accept them, to nurture them, and to support and encourage them. But not just them. Not just them. Who really needs the support and the encouragement? The answer is quite simple. Their parents. Because when you support the parents, they will be able to sustain their efforts on behalf of their kids. Don't arrange your church so that a family impacted by autism doesn't feel welcome. Don't arrange your supermarket so that when you see a child flailing on the floor because they did not get a piece of candy, that you send the parents out because it's disruptive. Think about how your behavior affects others. That's very easy for me to say, and it's very easy for you to hear. That is not very easy for you to do. Every moment of every day, we should be thinking about how our behavior affects others, because for every behavior, there is a reaction. And for every reaction, you have a choice of how you respond. Thank you.